While I'm never one who wants to start a conversation out with a complaint, I have to say that the way the allergies are attacking me in this season, get thee behind me. Nothing is working. I think that I've overdone it on maybe my allergy medications. I'm probably gonna have to go back to Flonase or something like that, but I was afraid I wouldn't be able to smell. Long story short, allergies, a million. Shannon Zip. It's looking real sketch for the rest of this season, and we just got started. So, how you doing? Hey y'all, my name is Shannon Ray. Listen, life has been happening, okay? Life has really been putting me in a mental space where I've had to do some assessing, some readjusting, some pivots, like just really taking inventory of what and who I have in my life and what changes I do or don't need to make. Quarter one has been one for the books. So I want to just jump right in and just talk about Q1 and some of the things that have really been on my mind. I have mentioned on a couple of different videos and a couple of different places and spaces that I was really and still really feeling a shift coming with this new year. It's had me on pause for the first quarter until something came along that really rocked my thinking and put me back in a place of realizing that I needed to be an active participant in my life. But I'm grateful for the time that I took to be on pause for quarter one, because it's brought me some clarity around things that I really need to take stock of. One of those things being my expectations for God. Have you ever heard that phrase, survivor's guilt? Usually it's brought up in cases of extreme trauma, like folks surviving an accident of some sort, folks who are kind of coming out on the better end of a situation. Back in February, we were told that we were going to be facing layoffs at my job. One of the things that was really hard about that was we didn't know when we would be getting answers. It wasn't until the very end of March that we even got our answers, got our yes, got our no, got our yes, but we're going to reposition you answers. And I can't tell you what level of stress that brings. You see, the thing is, there was never a question about whether or not I would be okay. I knew that regardless of the outcome, God has me and He's shown up for me many, many times before. This will be no different. But what I realized was that as I was preparing my faith, as I was activating my faith, I didn't prepare for the outcome of things going in my favor. I only prepared for the outcome of being one of the people who would likely get laid off. I almost expected the struggle I had to challenge myself on was, why was that my expectation? Why did I assume that God was going to take me through the hard route? It let me know that I maybe needed to rethink the way I thought about the nature of God as it pertains to me and my life and my walk. It also made me readjust my thoughts around what it really means to believe God for something. I believe that He would take care of me no matter what comes my way, but it seems like my faith is tied to survival. It seems as though my faith has become so entrenched in remaining in survival mode that I haven't thought about what it means to activate that same faith in moments of peace, of prosperity, of favor, of thriving. A decade ago, I walked into the office on a Tuesday and I was laid off. It was unexpected. I didn't see it coming. I remember feeling blindsided and really, truly just afraid for what my future was going to look like. At this point, I wasn't really making any money like that. I needed that job. I was absolutely living paycheck to paycheck back then. I didn't have any time to ramp up. I was going into an economy that was just as dire as they are saying that it's going to be right now. At that point, I was only a few years away from having been a graduate of college. I was no longer teaching dance. I used to be a dance teacher. And so I was moving into a space of corporate America that I had really no grasp of how to navigate. I had been given a very small severance package And although that I don't want to diminish that, because that severance package was all I needed, it ended up being exactly what it took for me to pay the rest of my lease up and move back home. But when I got laid off, y'all, I didn't go back to work right away. I was out of work for 11 months. And the job that I ended up going to was a call center that had nothing to do with my career path or career pathways. The trauma of that was really, really difficult. And I didn't realize how much it was at that time. Month after month after month would go by. I wasn't hearing back from anybody. I applied to Target and didn't hear back. I was really not understanding why I wasn't being placed. I really couldn't understand why the road was so long and so hard. That was my first time really going through a season of struggle and going through it with God. Now I can look back and I can see all of the provision. I can see that in those 11 months, God was doing pruning. He was humbling me in places that I needed to be humbled. He was revealing skills to me that I didn't realize were there, that I didn't know existed. He was increasing my network. God was really taking me through what I feel like was a refinement of my life, was a refinement of how I saw myself. And it took me years to see how impactful that season one, that quietness with God, that solitude with God. There was provision every step of the way. And all I could feel back then was the lack. Sometimes you need to be reminded of the seeds you planted when you're standing in the forest later on. So imagine finding out that layoffs are coming again, and while I'm in a completely different place, a different season, I have an actual savings, I have access to far more resources, I have a resume that speaks volumes about not only skill set, but about relationships built. I'm in a 1000% better place and space to be able to rebound and respond to a layoff. And my assumption was not that because of all those skill sets that I mentioned, because of all the work that I've done, that I would be spared. My initial thought was, okay, God, I'm going to weather this storm with you. When the layoff comes, because I just assumed that it probably would. When the layoff comes, I'm going to be okay because I was okay before. Some of that we can equate to a trauma response. I had been in this position before and it did not work out in my favor. But what I want to challenge us all to do, myself especially, as I am speaking to myself, I am speaking to you. What I want to challenge us to do is to believe bigger and better about God. I ended up getting the news just a couple of days ago that I was not going to be a part of the layoff. I had spent weeks thinking through plans and strategies. I had begun to apply to other jobs with other companies. I had been reaching into my network. I really had put together a really kind of solid, airtight plan for what I was going to do in the event that I was laid off. When I got the news that that was not going to be my reality, that I was not only going to be able to stay in my role, but also was going to be in the position to expand it, I had a moment of guilt. It was hard to be in a position of not knowing the outcome of your livelihood for weeks. And it's also hard to watch people you care about truly and sincerely, not just in that workplace space, having to be in a position where you're watching outcomes that aren't the same for people you genuinely care about does kind of tug on that guilt. Why them and not me? Why me, not them? And at the end of the day, after wrestling around with a few of those thoughts for a full weekend, I thought about it and I realized that I didn't make those decisions. I didn't make those choices. And in the same way that God provided for me in my time of being laid off is the same way that God can and will show up for those same people as well. I don't need to add to their emotional trauma or their emotional stress. God can take care of them all on his own without my guilt. I need to simply focus on the gift in which he has given me on my path. God's choice for me should be honored. I deserve to stand in gratitude. I deserve to be thankful for what he's decided to do for me in this season, instead of thinking about what happened before, instead of living in the place of guilt that does nothing for anyone, including the people who I feel guilty for. As I was thinking about that, as I was thinking about the truth of what I could do, the truth of being in my gratitude, the fact that I have the right to be in that space, it made me wonder why I had no plan forward for the better outcome. It made me wonder, in what other places am I limiting God to only worst case scenario? I believe sometimes as Christians, because we are very much so inundated with the messages of being nothing without God, of life being honestly empty and void without God, because it's true. But we also forget about the other side of that coin. We experience favor, we experience miracles in areas that people don't understand, that don't make sense to the outside world. And we spend so much time in our humility. We spend so much time in our suffering that we almost wear it like a badge of honor to say, I believed God through this. But can you believe God through the good stuff? Can you lean as heavily into God when things are going well, when there are praise reports after praise reports? Does it require the same level of faith from you? Or are you leaning back into your own ability and your own understanding to manage, to cultivate whatever that blessing is? It challenged me to think differently about that. It challenged me to start praying just as heavily, to fast just as heavily as I did for being okay if the worst case scenario would happen. Now that I know that I'm in a place where the best case scenario, where my literal prayer was answered, let me now go to God about how to handle it, how to move forward, how to make the most of this opportunity that He clearly wanted me to be in. There's something to it. There's old wounds. There's seasons where I'm still in waiting for certain things. Everything isn't about love or relationships or marriage or whatever, but I'll use the example for that. This month will mark 2 years of being single, right? There's been so much growth and expansion and opportunity. I have even found myself changing some of the prayers that I've had around even that. Faith, according to the Bible, is the belief in things hoped for, the conviction of things unseen. I have found myself kind of pruning and getting rid of some of the hopes that I've had for marriage in little subtle ways, changing the way things on my Pinterest board looks, delighting myself in what it means to be a single woman and all of the things that I get to do. And I do think you should enjoy every season that you're in, but why throw away dreams that you've had because the season of waiting has been long? And I know that some folks might think 2 years is not very long, but I'm thinking about not only the 2 years that I've spent since my last relationship ended, but all of the prayers that I had before that. I'm thinking about how I got to this place of settling because I had been praying for years prior to my last relationship, and thinking about maybe that's not for me. Maybe I need to pray about something different, or maybe I need to believe bigger. And I know that can be sensitive for folks. I know that can be a challenge for folks. We have brothers and sisters who are praying for, and when I say brothers and sisters, I mean this like in the kingdom, in our family, this big body, our community of believers. We have people who have been praying and believing for children for years. I know I can think of a couple of couples like right off the top of my head who have been praying for years and years and years for children. Folks who have been praying for financial breakthrough. There are others who've been praying for years too. And it doesn't negate the fact that you have feelings, that you have hurt and pain, and that waiting can be incredibly hard. But I want us to not allow it to change the way we expect God to show up for us just because He hasn't done it yet, just because He hasn't done it in the way that He did for her or him, just because it hasn't shown up in the time that we wanted. I was going through this battle at the beginning of the quarter where I was thinking about the fact that I'm moving again, that I'm feeling the pressure of doing things all on my own again, that it kind of puts you in this place of maybe it'll always be this way. Maybe this is the way your life is supposed to be. That's a conversation that's between you and God. That's confirmation that you should seek from Him. Make sure that it's God that you're talking to and God that you're hearing from instead of yourself, instead of the enemy. Make sure that it's actually the word of God that you are seeking and responding to. Our flesh can get us to believe that it's not going to happen. Our flesh can get us to believe that God will do it, but not for you. That is not the truth. And sometimes we have to make sure that we are allowing enough room for God to show up in the way that he wants to, the way he needs to. I want to believe that God will do it in a way that's even bigger and better. That is the season that I am walking into for Q2 and beyond, believing bigger, believing differently about the nature of God. It doesn't matter how he did it for them. Believe he can do it amazingly for you. Don't always prepare or expect the worst case scenario. Sometimes it really is your season. Sometimes this is your miracle. Sometimes you can claim it for yourself because your name really is on it. It really is yours. It is yours. I'm stepping back and I'm making a list of things that have been buried in my heart that I've been too afraid to ask God for, either again or in general, because I want to believe the biggest and best things about the God I serve. God wants amazing things for me. I need to believe that every single time. It doesn't mean that there won't be trouble. We understand that part, but we can't forget that there will also be good. There will also be joy. There will also be reason for dancing, for praising, for worshiping. That's the same God that we serve in those moments of heartbreak. I hope that this chat was helpful for y'all too today. It was such a great reminder for me. So I wanted to come on and do a quick video in hopes that it could be a reminder for you too. If he gave you those desires, if he placed something in your heart that you know can help people, that you know can make lives better, why would you think that there's no provision for it? Why would you believe that the worst case scenario is the only scenario when it comes to you and your life? Blessings are attached to your name. Blessings are attached to your work. So let's get to it. I love you. I hope you have the best day ever. I will see you on the next video. Bye. Like, comment, and subscribe and all that. I keep forgetting to tell y'all to do that, but it's important, okay? Because it helps y'all see when I got some new things going on. So go ahead, do your girl solid. Hit that like button, share if you want to, and leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts. Have you been there before? Are you there right now? I'm here for you, really and truly. Okay, bye for real.